and welcome to the show. I've had 2 days off and now I'm back, still in a slightly relaxed mode. As you see, I haven't worn what I normally wear. People are coming in. Welcome. Hello, happy Monday. Is everyone feeling sort of time dilating and shrinking in odd ways with life being shifted in this way? You get into whole new different routines. Hello Carl, how are you? Welcome. Knight who says, see, what a great reference there to Monty Python. I used to be a massive Monty Python fan back when I was a kid. It's getting chilly, a jumper is appropriate, yes, but I'm inside, you get to control the temperature inside, but this is more just because I couldn't be bothered. Is it Tuesday with me? It is currently not. It is Monday night, I think. Welcome everybody. So this is just going to be me talking to you for half an hour. No guest, just because I missed talking to you over the last 2 days. I had intended to take Saturday off. Saturday seems to be becoming my regular day off, just completely off and as much away from screens as I possibly can be. So it's Monday night here, Monday morning in the UK. I had to break up a fight with year 8s, but otherwise tickety-boo. Well, a physical fight or an online fight? Are you in a scenario where you're at school with a small number of students, or have you got students back in large numbers where you are in the world? Hey, Aussie Star. I don't know if I count as a star, but I've certainly had, I was so surprised doing the Bugle live on Sunday morning, which may also be why I took Sunday off. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning because I'd taken Saturday completely off. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. I was like, okay, I've got an hour and a half to write my jokes. I'm going to write these jokes. And I wrote the jokes. And then I was on this, live call with Nish and Andy and Chris. And all of a sudden I was like, there are 2,500 people watching this. This is like the biggest live show I've ever done in a way. And then I felt like I maybe shouldn't have taken Saturday off. But, that's my pattern. There's many a bugle that I've written on the bus on the way to the recording studio. So it's very much in the spirit of the bugle writing thing. And it's been such a delight to have that audience be so supportive of me from the get-go. I felt very, very happy to have them. I remember, and I've probably told this story before a million times, because it was such a thrill at the time when the first time I did the bugle, my brother said, reading the comments, because I said, can you check the comments, because I don't want to look online, because I never read the comments online, and I said, you just get a flavour for it, and he said, it's like you're paying them to be nice to you, because it was just such a universally lovely response. And then somebody I saw on the Facebook page, because I was like, oh, now I'm going to read all these nice things because, ego. And someone had left a comment saying, it was some months later, saying, I don't get why everyone's super into Alice Fraser. I mean, she's fine, but whatever. And I just liked the comment because at that point I had enough self-esteem to think that was funny. And then this guy messaged me like 5 hours later being, hey, I've just looked up all your stuff and I think you're great. And I thought, when does that ever happen online? The Bugle audience is so nice and so supportive and so beautiful. Someone says the half a glass of water in the Bugle live was too big. I'd been drinking from a small glass. Yeah, that was the joke. Half a glass of water is what you make of it. Half a glass of water can be as big or as small as you want it to be, and that's one of the great things about half a glass of water. Yes, it was a really, really nice thing to have. By the way, according to the MICF meme they put out today, you are my spirit animal. Oh, I didn't know there was a meme with me in it. Oh, I've been memeified. There's a sign of success. I always said to myself that fan fiction would be a sign of success, because you know that you've reached some level of sort of transition from a person into an idea when people write fan fiction about you. Wild1974 says, just watched your Amazon special. Thank you for watching my Amazon special. I very much appreciate it. The Resistance, which is the sequel to Savage, is I think also available on Amazon Prime in some regions. And if you can't get it where you are, you can also download it from my Patreon or from my website for an amount of money, or you can get it for free with the Alice Fraser trilogy, which is available on all podcasty things. I like to give people free options in case they don't like Amazon Prime, or they don't like paying for content, or whatever it happens to be. Was Half a Glass of Water always going to be a running joke, or did it morph into one? It was always going to be a sort of a running joke. And then when I saw the response, I thought, this is an interesting challenge. I'm going to see if I can get 366 different advertisements for Half a Glass of Water in the course of this project. Although I think I have missed a few days, which means I might have to double up towards the end of this year, this leap year with 366 days. And it's a challenge. It's an intellectual challenge. By the end of this year, I'm going. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make another joke again. But so far, it's been really fun having these running jokes and really just going, no, I've done that. What else can I say? How else can I sell Half a Glass of Water? What's another use for it, or what's another scenario I can put it in, or what's an ad format that I could slot it into? Do you think you might release an unedited version of Savage with all the songs? That would be the podcast version, the trilogy. I'm thinking maybe of doing an album of all my songs later this year, but it will depend on how disciplined I am and how much access I have to studio stuff, and whether all my songs sound the same, which I'm kind of worried that they do, more than they should, because I'm not that much of a musician. Recommended your special to a friend, and now she's a fan too. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. It's a very kind thing to do. I'm going to talk to you now for another 23 minutes, give or take, so I'm happy to take questions. Otherwise, I can just keep rambling like this, whatever suits you. Hello, Gary the trainer. Are you a fitness trainer? You've got in your picture, you've got the crossed arms of a fitness trainer. That's the pose of someone who's telling you to do more push-ups. Although I did thank you, Kath. I did a workout with my 18-month-old niece the other day, and she was brutal. She found it very entertaining. Burpees were her favorite exercise, so she just kept asking me to do more, and that is, I think, the most intense workout that I've done in a very long time, because you just want to make a baby happy. So may I highly recommend an 18-month-old who's entertained by burpees as your personal trainer, if you can't afford someone who's a professional trainer. My pet theory is all the water consumption is lowering the sea levels, and that's why New Zealand has appeared. Fair enough. My wife watched Savage and she cried at the end. I know you should not. You absolutely should not gauge the success of a comedy show by whether people are crying at the end. But with Savage, I definitely did. And that was for a number of reasons, which I can explain if you want. And I probably have explained before, so I don't want to be boring or repetitive. Who's Netflix, Amazon stand-up special other than your own would I recommend? Tom Walker, because he's a little bit the underdog like me in that kind of range of incredible and famous acts. I would recommend you watch all of them. They're all very different. They're all very interesting. They showcase many different styles of Australian comedy, and I like that very much. Tom Walker is a friend, and I like him a lot as a person, and the comedy he does is so different from the comedy I do, and so silly and so ridiculous and so gross. It's sort of like Marcel Marceau meets Ren and Stimpy. It's got that like real grotesque 90s cartoon aesthetic to it, but it's all his physicality, and it's a lot of fun. The redemption of mime for the modern world. Savage made me laugh and cry at the same time. Is it weird? Yes. Amazing? Yes. But weird? Yes. Of course it's weird. It's a show that should never have happened. It was the only thing I could do at the time, and it was... originally I was going to call the show that I had booked in, it was going to be called Alice Fraser Solves All Your Problems in 7 Easy Steps, and that show just I couldn't write it. And so when I realised what the show was, I called it Savage, because it was a real... It's interesting, and none of the review... There was one review that came out a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned it on my Twitter back then. It was an Indian screen site, not, one of these big, not like The Guardian, who didn't like it very much. But this writer, really got it, and it's the only review I read that noticed that it's angry. That noticed that second half is a real expression of the rage that I felt at the time, and the grief and the confusion. And because I wanted it to be funny throughout, I didn't want it to become maudlin or drag. I wanted it to be really powerful and both laughter and tears were an important part of that picture for me. Zoe Coombs-Marr special, yes, Zoe Coombs-Marr is also brilliant. Like I said, I think you should watch all of them. Absolutely. If you have Amazon Prime and you want to spend some time watching great comedy. And again, like, you've got Tom Gleeson, you've got Judith Lucy, you've got Celia Piccola, you've got Tommy Little, you've just got Adil Jayasinghe, Tom Walker. It's just Anne Edmonds, Zoe Coombs-Marr. It's a fantastic lineup. I think I've left one person out, and that's terrible. Do you listen to podcasts on your day off or during work days to unplug? Any recommendations? I do listen to podcasts, less now that I'm not sort of going between places. My normal work format used to be that I would wake up, go to the gym, I would go to a cafe and write for a bit, then I would walk somewhere else and write for a bit somewhere else. And I would either not listen to anything when I was walking to let things percolate, or I would listen to a podcast. So podcasts that I really like are Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, the Dollop podcast, the Savage Lovecast, the Illusionist, Helen Zaltzman's Illusionist podcast, Ear Hustle, which is a Radiotopia podcast that's set out of San Quentin prison in the US, and it's sort of this incredible insight into the prison system in America that is so incredibly broken. Those are the podcasts that I listen to. I tend not to listen to a lot of comedy podcasts other than The Dollop and occasionally Tofop, because I find that sort of backstage banter, listening to that, for me, feels like I'm missing out on something, or I find it self-indulgent. So, and I'm not going to name names there, but some of it does not appeal to me very much. Someone says, all killer, no filler. You make writing comedy so easy. How do you get to Alice Fraser level of awesome? I am not naturally funny, and part of the reason that I started doing comedy was because I liked the idea of getting good at something that I was not good at. I'm good at words, I'm good at structure, I'm good at ideas. I'm not naturally good at comedy. So for me, knowing that I was bad at comedy, knowing what good comedy looked like, and seeing that gap was the challenge. So the way that you get to be good at comedy or competent at comedy is by continuing to do it and continuing to fail and being willing to fail and being willing to look at your failure and understand it. Because that's a hard thing to do. I was the kid that I would have my report card in my bag for a week before I could bring myself to open it and read it and give it to my parents, because I didn't want to confront any failure or criticism. I don't like being criticized. And I know that that is not a good quality. I cringe away from failure. So kind of plunging myself into failure in a thing which at the beginning was very low stakes. I didn't think of myself as a comedian, so being bad at comedy wasn't a terrible thing for my self-esteem. It didn't make me feel like a less than human being, which I think was my problem with criticism before, is I'd take all criticism as like a dagger to the heart of like, I'm a bad person. So comedy gave me this avenue to fail and fail and fail and fail and go, oh, that was interesting, what did I do wrong? And be able to face my failure as an academic problem or as an interesting challenge rather than a devastating blow. Helen Zaltzman's Tranquillusionist is a great settler for bedtime, yes. You should do Willosophy. I did do Willosophy, I think in about 2014, back in the day, before you got to get a cool picture done. So maybe I'll get Will to get me back on at some point. I also had Will on Tea with Alice, and he was a great guest. He's a fantastic guest. I had him on, Turn Fear Weakness into a Strength and Never Fear It Again, exactly. I had Will on The Last Post recently, and this is, Will Anderson is one of the most successful comedians in Australia. And I said, do you want to do my dumb little podcast? We pay this like pittance. And he called me the day before and said, what do you want from me? I'm going to listen to some episodes. What kind of things are you looking for? And he came so prepared and so loose, and he, like, obviously he's naturally funny, obviously he's got this incredible talent and this huge realm of experience, but he prepared in a way that many other of the guests that I've had on have not prepared, and I've had to do a lot of and we've had to cut together things and fill gaps, and he just over delivered so hard. And this is after he didn't need to do that. And I thought that is how you stay one of the most successful comedians in the country, is by just showing up and doing the work and doing the homework. And I was really, like, I like Will as a person. I was so impressed by that. He really went above and beyond. I always have time for Will. He's so supportive of the up-and-comers. Tea with Alice put me onto Willosophy. Knew Will from Gruen as a kid. Yes, you listened to a lot of Will, Tofop and Willosophy. Well, he's sort of now become his own podcasting empire, really. He's generated so much. He's got the Two Guys, One Cup, that's the AFL one, and then he's got Tofop, and then he appears on the Dollop, and then he's got Willosophy, and I think that's a great direction for him, to just, because he's so listenable. And when you're doing something like breakfast radio, you have a lot of people in your ear telling you what you should say and how to say it. So really just expanding out into something that he's so effortlessly good at. Or as I said, I just realised how much effort he puts in to these things. I think that's a really good thing. It was noticeable he seemed as good a fit for it straight away as you did on the Bugle. Yeah, he and Josh Gondelman just hit the ground running. There was no adjustment period. Other people have adjusted very quickly. It's no shame to not be perfect at something the first time, but just coming in and, I do the setup and I'm like, obviously hoping it goes well. And if somebody comes back at me and is willing to engage, particularly, I think you can tell if you're a Last Post listener, you can tell if I'm doing a lot of talking without much interruption, I'm working a lot harder than I necessarily want to be. Whereas if somebody's chipping in and bouncing off me, then I feel relaxed and uplifted and happy. And, if you can make somebody else laugh, it makes you feel good. And I remember saying this to John Luke Roberts when he came on, he was stifling a laugh. And I was like, no, you're allowed to laugh. And he said, oh, no, I thought I thought we were pretending to be serious. So, yeah, that's a thing. Planning a trip to the land down under for a wedding. Do you meet fans? Please say yes. We can do away with the wedding. Well, at this moment, I think it's illegal to come to Australia, but of course, I meet people. I like meeting people. I love it when I was saying at the moment, I think probably one person a week maybe would recognize me and say something, and I find that really nice. I think I could probably handle one person a day, and then I don't want to be any more famous than that. I don't think I want to be famous at all. I think I just want to be able to keep doing the work that I am doing, and if people will let me do that, fame would come as a lever towards that end rather than an end in itself. But surely the British guests would think it's rude to interrupt. I'm often gesturing suggesting that they interrupt. Or how do you deal with the dissonance between the nuanced version of you from Tea with Alice, the liberal utopia of the Bugle, and the absurdist world of the Last Post? There is no dissonance for me in that. They are all things that I like and am fascinated by. That's like, I don't know what an analogy would be. That's like saying, how do you deal with the dissonance between liking soup and liking ice cream? They are things that I like and that I do subsequent to one another in different parts of the meal that is the work that I do. I think it would be dissonant for me to only do one of those things and not have an outlet for those other urges. Work is its own reward. Sherlock Holmes was right all along. Yeah, I find it is. My ambition in life, I guess, is a series of interesting problems that I can solve that go on forever, that they are followed by another interesting problem. I love that thing. It's like, oh, how do I make another joke about half a glass of water, or how do I make this terrible story into something funny, or how do I do something that's in this absurd world that reflects on the real world but doesn't drag us back into the real world, that takes us away from it and at the same time gives you an insight into the way that the news culture, news structures, news is a narrative, if you think of it like that. And this is my obsession with narrative rhetoric as well, but news is a story. The stories that they put into the news are not stories of everything that's happening in the world. It's not a broad picture of everything that's happening in the world. It's not just information, it's structured information. It's telling you a story, and it's got an underlying message. The underlying message is tune in tomorrow. and so then you see these arcs move through the news landscape, and they a form to them, and of course they are shaped by the real world. But to me, that was one of the interesting things with the last post, was going, how do we do an arc? How does an arc work? When do we start seeding this information? How do you follow a story? How do you create a story? And how does that move through a news landscape? And then particularly with recording them all in one, we do 4 with each guest, except Andy we do 2 because he goes long. How do you then sort of play that out into the future? If I'm recording with Alison Spittle and I'm recording this Tuesday, next Wednesday, the Friday after that and the Sunday after that, where will we be in this news story? And where will the real world news be? Probably-ish, so that we can bounce off that. So often you can tell the 4th one that I recorded with a guest, it will be the one that has the fewest real life stories, is the furthest away from reality. So in each one we sort of diverge away into the future. Little Dum Dum Club would be interested to see how Alice riffs off Carl and Tommy. I have not been asked to be on Little Dum Dum Club. I mean, Alice on Stanhope would be an incredible clash of worlds. I like Doug Stanhope. I have seen a few of his things. I've hung out with him backstage a few times. He is a fun guy, and I enjoy having conversations with him. He's a very ebullient character, and I like how he sticks to his opinions, and he has very strong opinions. And I'm always fascinated by people who have strong opinions, even if I don't necessarily agree with them. That's a fun thing. Do it. Again, I'm not very good at, maybe it's Cinderella syndrome, I'm not very good at pushing myself onto other people's things. I tend to wait to be asked. And then I will do almost anything in the world of comedy. If somebody asks me, I'll give it a shot, even if it's outside my comfort zone. Grant is asked to be in my live video. This is just me talking to you, in you being text and me being here. I don't think I can take that, but welcome to the show, Grant. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any questions. I'll probably wind up in 5 to 8 minutes, so get your questions in now if you can, and then I'm going to go to sleep. Like a baby, like super early, like a baby, which is... Has anyone else been going to bed very early during these lockdown periods? I don't know. Would love to see the Bugle emerge as a sort of a daily show for podcasts, a mothership bringing many awesome people forward. You and Andy being the steward, and Colbert, of course. Well, Andy, I think, is both the steward and the Colbert. He certainly has been so generous and so kind with me on that show, and I think he likes the idea of bringing forward these new generations. He has such a wide range of different kinds of comedy voices, and from all over the world with all different kind of points of view, and I really like that about the whole project. And Chris Skinner is so ambitious with what he wants to do. I think they want to do more spin-off shows. The last post is very much a test this year of me doing this. I think they will do other projects with other Bugle co-hosts leading them up. I would love to get another one after this year, but that's looking too far in the future. I think if I can get through 366 days of the last post, then there will be plenty of time to think about what I can do else in the Bugle universe. But ideally they become an empire of greatness. Late nights and later wake-ups here. Usually it's early wake-ups and late nights, yeah. My fiancé is still going on about your hair since we saw you at the Bugle show in Glasgow. I have a lot of hair, and I don't do very much with it. I find it easier not to worry about it. It just does what it wants to do. And then if I always feel quite smug because I don't get haircuts, so I feel like I'm saving money. I get a haircut probably once every year, maybe a year and a half. Because no one ever notices when I get a haircut. I can get like half a foot off my hair and no one will notice because it's curly. So I've got no consistent schedule. Sometimes I'm sleepy early, sometimes late. My body's confused. Yeah, at the moment I'm kind of with enough early wake-ups into UK time. I found myself trending towards early bedtimes like a baby, and then waking up quite early. And it's also nice to be up early if you don't have to be up early. Because then everything's quiet and you get to do things and feel like you're in a silent world. Is that her with the hair? I'm not sure Dancy's narrated memoirs in a theatre of Brent. I'm not entirely sure what that reference is, but I assume it's a reference to Dancy Lagarde, which you've spelled incorrectly. It's D apostrophe capital ANCEY. Although the second E is the last E is optional. I've just shaved my head for the third time in lockdown. I have too big a head for it. Oh, like a room when it's empty of furniture seems smaller, but when it's full of furniture seems bigger. I find if I don't wake up by 4 a.m. I don't get things done. That is great. Good luck with the 4 a.m. wake-ups. I don't wake up at 4 a.m. Unless I have to do a show. But I've developed a skill that I never thought that I would develop, which is waking up very early and then being energetic. And I began to develop that. I got a head start on that when Zoltz did the Bugle tour of the US, which I did via Skype in the UK, which was sort of 2 a.m. starts, and then in Australia, which was slightly more convenient starting times. I can't even spell her name without giggling. I cannot spell Dancy Lagarde's name without giggling. It is such a fun series of running jokes to do, the Dancy Lagardes. It brings me back to when I was a kid and would read romance novel blurbs out loud with my brother, and the challenge was to keep a straight face, and we just couldn't. So whenever I write a Dancy Lagarde, it makes me hysterical, and I don't want it to, I don't want to be contrived. I don't want to make it into a thing. I just can't get through them. And when I write them, if they don't make me laugh, I scrap them, because they have to be just that right level of completely ridiculous, and very earnest as well. I've just bought an Only the Unfinished Can Contain the Infinite necklace. If you could have an item of merch, practicalities aside, what would I do? That I want to do a Dancy Lagarde merch, but I have to go via Chris, obviously, and the Bugle people, because I don't want to be making money on the side off their project. So I would love to have a Dancy Lagarde tote bag, or an author mug, which had Dancy Lagarde's name in sort of a very flowing romantic script, and then the full transcript of one of the titles on the back, and just have all of them. I don't know how many I've done by now, 15, 20, as options for people to buy, just with the in small writing the whole. I think that would be fun. I really like the No One's Gonna Die, We're All Gonna Die necklaces. I don't know. I guess other than that, it would be directed by what people would like of me. Now, fluffy slippers. Why fluffy slippers? I don't wear fluffy slippers. But yeah, I don't know. The anti bookshelf Zoom backgrounds. Yeah, that would take a lot of work. If someone wants to do work for me in that way, I will happily take it. But at the moment, I'm pretty underwater. There's plenty of things that I would do if I had time. I would do more. One of the things I always feel not envious of, but slightly oh, I should be doing that, is when comedians put up clips of their stand-up. I should do that. I have 5 hours of stand-up in my back catalogue, and they're just sitting there, and often I'll see a news story and think, oh, I've got a joke about that in my, in the Resistance or in Empire or in Mythos, and I don't have the time or the energy. I need an intern or something like that. I need to. That's a reason to get wealthy and famous, is to have somebody who you can be like, yeah, do that for me. A Dancy vellum bookmark or vegan alternative. Yeah, papyrus bookmark maybe. I would love the emotional baggage back on sale. The reason that I have not put the emotional baggage bag back on sale was because when I did that for my first show, Everyone's a Winner, it was a relatively original thing, or at least I thought it was. But you can find bags that say emotional baggage online, and knowing that other people are doing it makes me feel like, well, other people can do it and other people can make money off it. If it already exists, it makes me feel a little bit derivative or hack to do it. So if you just Google emotional baggage bag, I'm sure you can find an emotional baggage bag to carry around your emotional baggage. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. which is to say midday UK time. Maybe masks as merch, not a bad idea. I will wrap this up now because you have so many other things on the internet that you can go and find and seek out. I am going to wash my face and head back into my real life, but it was such a delight talking to you, and I'll be back again tomorrow at the same time with Inside and Alive with Laura Davis. That's our talk show that we wrote, structured. I don't know. We decided we were going to do a talk show a couple of years ago, and so every Tuesday now we're doing a version of that talk show, which is not as structured as the real life talk show, but is basically us just having a chat. And I do recommend you show back up because I'll be here and Laura will be here. It'll be nice to see you here. See, this is my tongue's running out. I've got to finish this up in the traditional manner by covering my camera with my thumb so I don't zoom in on my nose. Thank you for staying and talking with me. Mwah. I'll see you around.